A motion by Lois.
I second it.
Second by Fran. All right, is there any other discussion on that resolution? Yes, Nate described it as best we can. Fran?
Yes.
Charles? Yes. Rusty?
Yes.
Yes. Laura?
Yes.
And yes.
Yeah, we need 5 people.
Well, I got 6. I know.
And then the
Yeah,
next
it's like-
resolution would be, now, of course, just as a reminder, the village did go out to bid for the re-chassis of the ambulance. So VCI submitted a bid for it.
They were the only bid, so they were the low bid.
Yep, I was asked to review the purchase contract. There's a few items in it that I'm going back to VCI to just kind of tie together. Well, there was another issue that I didn't mention in the email to VCI.
Okay.
And it's just that I want there to be a reference in the purchase contract to incorporation of the bid specs themselves. That should always be a part of the contract. There should be a reference to it in there. I don't anticipate VCI pushing back on it, but it should say clearly that they will comply with all the terms and requirements of the bid specifications, and that's not quite in there to my satisfaction.
Look under the price of unit.
Yeah, and it says...
It's like a vague part of that.
Yeah, it says in there, it's just as bid, price of unit as bid per the republished remount spec.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, like that implies the only thing from the bid specs is the price that's incorporated, and it's like, no, it's
So that's the
everything.
line you wanted on.
That, yeah, I want it very clear, and I don't expect VCI to push back on this. It's just, it should be relatively minor. But I would just ask that you, if you approve purchase of the ambulance from VCI tonight, that you do it subject to the legal review for this issue that I just raised.
Yeah, because they changed the other stuff, like they had the purchaser as the fire department.
Yeah, but they still have the date wrong.
Oh yeah, they do have the date as, like,
Almost a week ago,
Yeah,
as
a
a
week ago.
Wednesday, which of course, we're not purchasing it as of last Wednesday,
no.
if you purchase it.
Rusty?
Sounds like there's a lot of stuff to work out. I'm not ready to do that. All those, like, those aren't little details, right?
Well, it's just that they issued their purchase contract too early. They need to redate it, and there should be just, like I said, a reference in it. It would be a sentence that would be added to it.
Right.
And they've agreed by submitting the bid to furnish the village with the re-chassied ambulance in accordance with the specs. It's just their contract doesn't quite say that. Again, I think it's a relatively minor thing.
So Nate, are you be working with them
Yeah, you already
to
have.
figure the wording properly?
Yeah, I would send them an email that says, hey, I'd like this one sentence added to this.
Then they won't have an issue.
And I just don't expect them to have an issue with it. If they say no and they have an issue with it, then I would say, okay, then the village isn't going to buy the ambulance at this point because it's subject to legal review on that item.
Rusty?
So, yeah, I'm not necessarily this, but with our stuff with Delta and our stuff with sewer, I'm a little gun shy of specs and how solid are these specs, and did somebody, you know what I'm saying, talking about all that gun shy there, I'm just talking about that one a little bit. I also did ask about the loaner ambulance, and I wanted some questions answered about the loaner ambulance, because you had actually said something to me about, now we're negotiating with them about how we're gonna get this ambulance down to them. That's a piece, how we getting the ambulance to them, how's it getting back?
Yeah, so we did.
How do we get the loaner, how do we get it, how do we get it back, what are our responsibilities about the loaner, how long can we keep, I'm just interested in all
We did
this.
get paperwork on
Okay,
that.
I can answer that.
You were
Just
supposed to
one
get that
thing at a
information,
time,
we
right?
have it.
I'm asking them there.
Yeah, we got all the paperwork on the loaner ambulance.
Okay.
We get it when we sign this contract. Obviously not like the minute we sign it, but once we get it all done. We have to get, so part of this contract is we have to get the ambulance to be re-chassied to them. That's in this contract here, at our cost. So we have to figure out a way to get it there. So, whatever.
Already done.
Well, tell us about it.
And then they will give us the loaner ambulance. We have to insure the loaner ambulance while we have it. And we have to pay for basic maintenance of wear items, brakes, tires, oil changes, any what they call major mechanical problems would be their problem.
That would be their problem, because that's something that
That's right in the contract.
that's something I have interest in. If we break the loaner or it breaks,
Right, yeah, that's their problem.
we're out, okay.
So
So ours is just basic maintenance, theirs is in.
We have to do oil changes and
we have
care
to,
brakes. And
we have to title it, insure it, and register with the Department of Health before we can put it in service, which is normal for any ambulance.
It would be like the initial putting into service process for any ambulance that any EMS department would have to go through.
Correct. So the next question is, how nice and new a one are we getting?
It will be New York State inspected before it comes here.
Right.
That is the requirement that they do. They make sure that it just gets inspected before it comes here. And that's not to say that after 6,000 miles, you know, or however wear and tear, depending on how many calls you do, that the brakes might start to go bad. That's not their fault because it passed inspection. We all know how that goes with our own car. And the whole thing is set up just like leasing a car from any company. You're responsible for this, this, and this, and we're responsible for that. It's pretty much identical to any lease of a vehicle. We just do
aside
oil
from
changes and...
any sort of major thing beyond a wear item, we're not responsible.
Then it goes down to Halsted, is what Jeff and I have agreed to. It would go down to Halsted to get repaired, and then the bill gets sent to them for anything like turbo, any of the large ticket items that could go wrong. Then that bill gets sent to VCI.
So Robin, I think Rusty asked though, how new is the loaner
Oh,
ambulance?
I don't know. We
We
won't
wouldn't
know.
hear, we won't know the paperwork.
So we don't know what they're giving us.
They said it will be a used.
It's gonna be the same kind of an
As
ambulance.
you're gonna get.
It's not gonna be a van ambulance or anything like that, because we requested no van ambulances. So. But Tioga Center's been using a loaner ambulance from them and whatnot, and they've had no issues.
So there's nothing in this saying it'll be no older than a 2010.
No.
So we could get a 1984 van, I mean, just a hypothetical, just because we're not contracted anything newer.
As long as it passes inspection and runs.
And it's gonna be third due anyway, it's not like that's the one we're gonna run to the ground, you know?
It's the one you want to run to, right?
Run, as long as it runs, it's more we got now.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
guarantee it'll pass state inspection and Department of Health inspection.
correct. And that entailed us moving a safe from one ambulance and putting into that one. I had to make sure that if we put a safe in there, because of holes having to be drilled into their box, that we would not be, charged anything as damage. And they said no, that would not, because that's expected to put the safe in. As for getting the ambulance down there, I'm working with a gentleman from Waverly, who is going to be doing we're going to get it to Waverly, and then it's going to go from there down to New Jersey. And
This
then-
one out here with the blown border.
Yes. It can get to Waverly. And if we get it there, that saves them one permit they had to get.
Okay.
So, anything we could save along the way, that's what we were gonna do. So, it was difficult, like I did say, to try and find somebody because of the COVID, to get it there. But now we've got all those loops and bounds done, and the guys agreed to do it, so.
You're satisfied with his charge or whatever?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it is a gentleman that's done work for the Tioga County Sheriff's Department numerous times, so. Yeah.
So, one of the reasons I ask all this stuff is that I don't have a wonderful taste in my mouth from VCI and the ambulance we were supposed to get from them a couple of years ago, and all that shenanigans that went on and all the time that took. So I'm just a little more leery of them than some other people.
Well, that wasn't VCI's fault.
So says you.
But it doesn't matter, they've been good by us, they come to the building when we need repairs. They came not that long ago and did some more electrical that needed done. Getting that kind of roadside service and come to the station is something you're not gonna find in a lot of companies, so. And they don't charge exuberant prices to come out here, so.
So that's the contract.
So do we want to vote on that contract?
Any other motions?
No.
Yes, we made a motion.
Did we? Another one.
Okay, I'll make the motion that,
Oh, okay, well, no,
We talked about a motion.
we made a motion only on the one,
The financing.
bonding.
the bond.
We haven't made a motion to actually
We
sign the
made a
contract.
motion on the bonding,
Right.
the bonding.
We haven't made a motion to sign the contract. Pending needs changes. That's what we talked about.
And all it is the sentence that's there needs to be put on there, and it's a very simple,
Right.
Just saying, got nothing,
Yeah, we gotta fix the date.
yeah. That poor man's been going nuts the past few weeks.
Okay, I propose that we make a contract with VCI to do the re-chassis work in accordance with whatever changes that Nate sees needs to be done in the contract between VCI and Village of Owego.
Okay. Need a second for that one?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion on the contract or the owners or questions?
So this is the vote now.
This is the one.
This is the one.
This is the one.
We're going to do it. Okay.
This is the one. Fran?
Yes,
Charles? Yes. Rusty?
No.
Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
No,
And yes.
That wasn't a final vote. That was just a straight four. Yeah, good enough.
that was 42,
Four to two.
so that's okay.
That's okay. Yep. Pending nature changes.
Minor,
Pending changes,
should be minor.
okay.
do we need to have a vote on the release of the deposit for the contract? Or that's included in the contract?
15,000.
Do we need to vote on that?
Oh, yeah, it's all
Is that a part of the contract?
Yeah, I think it might be part of the contract.
So I think the big thing with that would be you need to vote to appropriate that money from somewhere, because I'm assuming there's not a current line budget item for purchase of a new ambulance this year.
Take
It
it,
actually is.
Yes.
we probably do have
Something in here for it.
Yeah, we have
Large
30,000.
vehicle purchase. Oh,
Okay.
$30,000 in it.
take it out of that.
But that, in the contract, it states that we need
Yeah, right here.
10% deposit, right?
Positive $13,750.
$13,750.
And 10 cents.
Okay. So it's all part of the contract, all right.
That 30,000 deal.
Not the 30,000, the 13,000.
No, I mean, no,
First year's.
Oh, wow. It's going to depend on the financing.
It was in there.
I mean, because the financing will close.
I'm just wondering if that hindered that line item because there's only 30,000 in the line item. They never spent
So
13.
the first payment on the bond will be due literally 1 full year from the date of that. So we'll be in next fiscal year anyway.
That's what it makes it.
Next budget year.
Yeah. So there'll be money left over in that budget.
Well, it's actually right here. They call it fire pumper trucks, you're supposed to fix that. It's a large vehicle. Well, there's $20,000 there, not 37.
So it's gonna come out of the line item,
What's that?
40.20.
Cut it out.
Okay.
That taking care of kids.
So we need to start at 30. You get down to that 1%.
We should get some finance.
13,000.
We need to get finance to do it.
13,750.
750. Yeah.
10 cents.
10 cents.
Yep.
10 cents.
I get 10 cents.
Yeah.
Gotta get put in your 10 cents.
Get that dime. Points worth now.
All right, so here, then I have a question for the next, well, go ahead. I don't have a question yet.
Okay.
What's your question?
Well, then we won't need to bond 140,000 if we've already put in.
Right, the bond will authorize the full shot.
This amount.
But you're right, you only need to finance.
Okay, so that changes kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah, but you're authorized to do up to 140,000.
But we don't really want to, do you?
No. we
No,
do
it would
whatever
be
the-
about
We want to do the lowest, right? Okay, I mean, lowest, better, you'd be paying less in the long run.
So there's an interesting discussion to be had around this though. So you could reimburse yourself for the down payment that you're making on
But
this.
that's what I'm getting at.
Right.
They
If
could,
you
they
wanted to. You
could
don't have to.
technically put that money back into your account, or lower
Yeah.
lower it for 5 years, or
Right.
what do you feel comfortable with?
So when we bond, we don't have to make a payment for a year, right?
You'd be in the next fiscal year, because it will be a year from whenever we close, and we're do the math on that, right?
Yeah.
It's next year.
Next year.
$13,000 over 5 years, or what is it?
2,000, Rusty can do the math faster, but 2,500, 25, 27, 50.
Yeah, either way.
It's a couple of
Rusty?
So even though I voted against this, we're trying to do this, so now let's do this fast. Let's get that bond, let's do everything as quickly as we can.
You won't need the money though
Yeah,
until
I understand that part. I'm just talking about all pieces.
Just the 13 of about 10.
So Rusty, where I'm going with this is, it's important that you
Sign a contract tomorrow.
You can sign the contract tomorrow, but the VCI is not going to get paid until 8 months from now. And
Which they
so-
understand.
But they're
So
gonna
you
give us
won't
13,000.
go out and actually borrow the money until like 8 months from now. So
Yeah.
really,
That's all, that's I understand.
13,000.
I'm just talking about, since we're gonna do this, let's take the ambulance down, let's get the,
Okay.
let's move this.
When you want to do the next step, which is to really bond it, are we bonding it for the 138, or are we bonding it for 138 minus this?
I think we should bond it for the 138, because whatever we can add to it and pay that off sooner is gonna not matter.
Well, it'll be 138, or it could be
25.
125.
Well, if we do the 125, it'll save us in the end, so we'll just do the 125, because we already have the other funds in there, so.
Right. So we're not gonna pay the first bond payment for
Correct.
another year.
That's right, so we'll just do it from that.
And maybe more than a year.
That would be like 18.
Please.
Before you pay the bond.
Can I assume that we're gonna have an early out on this if we end up pulling out how much money we're gonna be able to pay this up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would just need, Rodney needs to get quotes from the banks for a callable bond.
Call.
Okay.
And that might increase the interest rate by 0.4%. Instead of 2.2, it would be 2.6.
But you're borrowing, you're gonna be borrowing, you're saving
That's
yourself
basically-
13,000.
Yep,
Yeah.
Right after that.
yep.
Okay, okay. All right. And so, okay, so Fran's made a motion here to, right, and to pay him the deposit out of the 4540.20.205, which is your account for the fire tree prayers or whatever.
Or a pumper truck if you need one.
That's right, we still got that line item.
So I need a second on that. Need a second on that?
I'll second.
You see, I'll have that in there stuff forever.
Well, if we get those other ambulances off the road, we save money too.
$20,000 in it, but we
What?
know we need like 30.
No,
Right? So
no,
we're
no.
follow up
We need
something else.
13,750.10 for the deposit of
This is for the
the contract.
deposit.
Instead of saying the land.
This goes against the purchase price.
So if we get rid of all these ambulances sitting out in the graveyard, that'll help too.
We get another 10 cents.
Put it in that middle. Put it in that
Use
middle
our
right there.
insurance. Michael, it's on the insurance.
There are a lot of.
They're
a lot
still
of
on
metal
insurance, get them off.
Put it in that dumpster.
So was the largest increase in scrap metal prices.
Okay, so make sure everybody's agreeable. You're agreeing to pay this $13,750.10 coming from the pumper truck. discuss how much we want to, we're thinking we're gonna deduct that price off of what we really need out of the 138.
Correct.
Okay. And that's, trying to remember what we're gonna get.
$13, good, right?
$13,750.10.
Yes.
Which will leave $124,000 left-ish.
That'll be, like I said, what we're going out for is a 5-year callable note. We have a rough idea of this one.
We had a motion and a second, Fran, Charles.
Yes, we do.
Second
Yes.
discussion about where we're gonna take that deposit. Are we good? Fran,
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes.
Yay.
So you're, so when I see your little John Henry on here, is when I will make the arrangements to send. I'm not moving that rig out of this bag until I have a signature in front of my face, because
As soon as you guys get together with that, we will just give it, make sure a check comes from our office.
Right.
To send to all the
not that anybody really wants that other than that for this purpose, but I'm just saying I'm not moving that rig
But that
until I
can
have.
come, we can get that this week before the numbers.
We'll get that moving. As soon as, or as
Yes.
fast as VCI and they get together. and
Yeah,
make that
and I'll email first thing tomorrow.
Okay.
And you'll probably have it back to you before the end of the day.
Yeah, Toronto wants this, so.
Yeah, just say it.
Ask the Rooster Crows, or what's first thing in the morning?
That and the title.
After 9 a.m.
We got the title, yay!
We got a rooster across the street, I can let you know when it starts.
There's roosters floating around in Johnson City, which is far from me, so.
Well, I have to
Run by them.
Alright.
Communications.
What's next? Communications. Alright, let's see, what I get. Solar, oh yeah. Because we,
They got back.
there's two different solar things. So we got a press release from our CCA, the power thing we did a year ago. Here it is. But they're gonna run soon.
Is that the mega?
Yeah,
From Mega, yeah.
but then you read the second letter explains how much you've saved.
So we've saved, it says it's easy to talk about going green, so they're gonna run this in the paper. And it says, that we did, in July of 2019, the village joined a group of southern tier municipalities that chose 100% renewable electricity for the residents. This group includes the village of Elmira, the village of Horseheads, the town of Nelson, the town of Union, and the town of Lebanon. Through the Mega CCA, we committed to support renewable energy, and it says that we have, I assume this is all together, we have removed greenhouse gases by driving 7,165 vehicles over the course of a year, so that's how many cars would equate to the, wouldn't be driving. Recycling 1,411,000, oh God, no, it's more than that. Wow, that's 1 billion. 411,175 bags of trash instead of sending them to the landfill, and 43,313 acres of forest with the carbon that was saved. So, anyway, they're gonna publish this in the paper, like next week, I think.
Did you save any money?
Do we save any money? I don't know.
The acres of forest that we saved in Berry Creek in California.
Yeah, probably.
Too soon.
Not there anymore. So anyway, and then the other solar thing, that we did the bid opening.
That's the first meeting in October. That's Delaware submitted anything? Do we know? I guess it's supposed to be sealed, so.
Right now,
Is there at least one in?
do we have any bids for the solar thing?
The ones that wanted to bid from?
First meeting in October.
Okay, no, I've got anything. Talking about
The solar farm thing.
The community generation credit.
the Delaware one.
as far as other communications, did everybody get these agreements from the hose team? You know, I sent one out today, they were sent out the wrong one. So we got the agreement that the fire department entered into with the hose team just for the steamer. That it's just really for information.
Or just a steamer?
This is just for the steamer between the fire department and the hose team.
Covers the steamer, the Stanford, and
So it does cover all of them.
Right. And then, so then they sent us an agreement, which they would like us to agree to, since we now own that piece of land at 99 North Ave.
I think he had a cigarette at least.
So the forums.
There's a lot of hot air in there, probably had to go out.
Probably. So anyway, they sent us an agreement at 99 North Ave that we now own for that we swapped last meeting. It basically says that we would let and Nate will correct me where I'm wrong here, we would let the hose team build a steamer house, which they would own and maintain. And we would supply electric and shovel the sidewalk and plow the parking lot.
Parking lots. What parking lot?
If there was a parking lot.
There's not room enough for a parking lot there.
Probably not.
Okay, and the village would have the title to the property, right?
Yeah.
Just cracked it up for us.
Run it over again.
I'm sorry.
Alright, so the steamer agreement's
With
good.
the fire department and them, but you're talking about our agreement with them?
So they would like us to enter an agreement with the hose team where they would use our property that we just got last meeting, 99 North Ave, to put their steamer house on, which they would own and maintain all of it, but they would like us to supply the electric, shovel the sidewalk, and plow a parking lot if they have one.
So I'm on that committee where we're supposed to be figuring out a little bit of what we're going to have in this agreement from the village side with extra questions. And Rusty and you, Mike, and I are on that. And I briefly spoke with Rusty with some questions, but I didn't get a chance to talk with you or get any questions with Nate. So I think we could move this to the next meeting or something so we get another chance to work out the details.
Okay, that's fine. I was just bringing it up, just for discussion, in case, but that's the general, what they're looking for. Does anybody else have any
As soon as we
questions?
pay their electric bill now.
Well, it's be for the building that they construct.
You guys probably shovel sidewalks,
We just haven't had our meeting to talk about it yet.
They're getting salt out of the DPW.
village base,
shovel sidewalks.
when?
You shovel the sidewalk in front of the fire station, right?
We plow too, like,
Unfortunately, the chief is out there with a truck bottom.
well,
You got
yeah.
a big enough one, I guess.
Ron seen me shovel on that part of the
He was
sidewalk.
out there, just off.
I didn't see them trucks. They all take care of the stations. Okay.
I was gonna offer him hot coffee, but I was like, nah.
Everything.
We got any other communication? No,
My hot coffee.
because we already did the cleanup day.
One thing we skipped though was that if we skip the minutes of 9/8 and 9/14.
Laura,
We need more time.
Minutes here.
We're on my desk.
Laura, it's minutes time.
More minutes.
For the minutes, today I went to the office and I have a couple of corrections that I believe made it into your minutes that you now have at your seats. And so if you just go to the last page, one of the corrections was the final motion before the adjournment. And so that change to the minutes now says, motion by trustee Fuller, seconded by trustee Everly, to move forward on doing property survey and to finalize dimensions and agreement details for purchase of the Nobiletti parcel adjacent to the entrance of the wastewater treatment plant. And then that was a roll call vote, and everybody voted aye.
This is September 8th?
No, this is, yes. Last date.
Meeting minutes.
Yeah, I'm
It
good.
was incorrect that we purchased property at a price,
I had you purchase
for the
instead.
meeting, so it changed
Yeah,
it
we're just still doing the survey.
to accurate.
Good. Okay, yeah, we went over this
Okay.
today.
And then there was one other change, and that was just under my report. The resident will be contacting the mayor to discuss the CRSP. And everything else stayed the same from what you all saw emailed prior. So with that, I motion to approve those minutes as amended or changed.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? Rand?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes.
Move to approve the minutes of the meeting of September 4th, 2020, September 14th, 2020.
I'll second.
Ron,
Okay. Any discussion on that? No. You good? Alright. Fran?
Yes.
Charles? Yes. Rusty?
Yes.
Ryan?
yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes.
Next up here is trustee reports.
So, Fran?
Okay, for the Evergreen Cemetery Committee, last Monday on the 14th, John Rickliff and I met with Tony Blaine from Tri-County Tree Service. He's the same company that the village uses for all the dead trees and et cetera. Anyway, we drove around the cemetery and we identified, when I talked with Tony today, he said it would be between 12 and 15 trees. There were at least 12 that were really bad. And he said that because of the location of some of the trees where you can't really drive up, into where the cemetery plots are and so on, that he would have to rent a lift truck for about 2 weeks to get to some of those trees. And so he said the total for removing all the trees and renting the vehicle would be under 10,000. Under 10,000.
That's, okay, but
You got 15 large
that's from
trees.
$1 to 10,000, I'm just trying to get a better feel on how much it was.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah,
Okay.
15 very large trees, and 2,500 of that is the rental of the lift equipment.
It's only $666 a tree.
How soon can he do that?
He would do it this fall. Get it done
I paid $800.
before snow.
Well, I would say this could fall under our end of the year encumbrance list. I think I can cover this if you want to. If you want to get it started and get it approved. Because he won't be there,
No, it'll be a couple weeks before he gets to it.
I think he get an opportunity here, it sounds like a good price for trees.
Yeah, $600 a tree.
Are they removing wood and everything? That's really impressive.
The whole thing.
tree down, take it away, how about stump?
I didn't ask if they removed the stump completely or not. I don't know. Is that what he usually does when he, the trees in the village?
I'm not sure.
Usually a different price point for stump grinding or.
But I
Yeah,
mean,
is there stump grinding? And has anybody talked to Jeff specifically about those trees and that pricing and any other companies getting bids, competitive bids?
I'm not gonna get that crazy.
no, it's under 20,000, right?
Yeah.
So we don't need competitive bids.
I don't think she means we have to do it because of law.
No, it's just he wants to make sure we get the best price.
No, this is a gentleman that the village uses all the time for tree removal. He did 2 years ago when we cleared out the view up there near Sasana. Now, he did that, went down the bank, and I mean,
I don't know how we got down there.
yeah, he only charged us $2,000 for that work 2 years ago.
So typically, I think the procurement policy requires getting like 3 quotes for work of this type of dollar amount. So at least you need to go get a couple more quotes then.
Could you get another quote or two?
I'll check on it.
Okay.
But you said you have the,
I think we could cover it if we could get another quote as soon as possible.
all right,
Put it on the agenda for next meeting.
okay.
We don't want to lose this guy either, you know, it's both things. We want to do everything right, we want to do our business, but you might also talk to the gentleman and say, because of the rules and stuff, we can't give you a commitment for 2 more weeks. Does that still fit in your time frame? Can you still do it?
And let's hear what this comes.
Yeah, I'll check on, I mean, actually, it may not, for erosion purposes, it may be better off to leave those stumps there, because you can get the root
That might be true.
system underneath those embankments.
But ask him what he's going to do about that.
Okay, yeah, I'll ask about
Okay.
stump
Yeah,
removal.
see what is.
That's what we can talk to, what they think.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, all right, so we'll, I'll get you more information, we'll continue with that next meeting.
Yep.
That's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Charles?
I have nothing at this time.
All right, good to see you.
Yeah.
Very pleased to see you.
Glad to have a couple inches between me and the table once again. I'm maybe half an inch.
Rusty?
I just wanted to say something about the picnic. Are we having it Wednesday?
Oh,
We are,
yes.
yes. So, has anybody RSVP